يا أيها الناس كلوا مما في الأرض حلالا طيبا ولا تتبعوا خطوات الشيطان إنه لكم عدو
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين. So inshallah we are in lesson 4 of our 45 lesson series, and today would be the last session of week 1. So this week we'll be covering 4 sessions. In the first session we discussed about what is halal and tayyib, so basic definition of the key topic that we are studying. In lesson 2, we complemented that with some other key definitions so that we understand the broader structure of the program, the broader outline, and the key concepts within this course. We then discussed how Sharia rulings work. What are the key types of rulings and how do we drive them? What are the key sources for driving them? And we discussed that Quran, Sunnah, Ijma, which is consensus of the scholars or consensus of the companions, and qiyas, which is juristic analogy. So we discussed these 4 aspects, and we discussed there are some other tools as well. And based on that, we drive 5 types of rulings. Today, inshallah, we will broaden that concept and discuss some qawaid al-fiqh, basic principles, juristic principles that make it easy for the scholars to, one, give an issue rulings, and secondly, to check if the rulings are correct or not. So inshallah, we will cover this topic, an extremely important one, and the benefit of this topic is that its application is far beyond the food technology as well. So it's applicable in our day-to-day life as well. It's applicable in numerous other fiqh disciplines and fiqh topics as well. For example, Islamic finance and other aspects. So very important topic. So let's begin, inshallah. First of all, understanding what are qawaid al-fiqh. So qawaid are plural, is this word is plural of the word qaida, which means a principle. So qawaid al-fiqh means principles of fiqh. It is different from usul al-fiqh, which is the foundations or the roots of fiqh. It is different from it. It is basically the structure on which we establish the furu'at of the religion. Quran and Sunnah gave us the principles. It is the application of those principles to find the meaning and rulings about the modern topics, about the things that did not exist at that time. How would we transfer the rulings from the Quran and Sunnah onto our modern day issues? So this topic is about that, and inshallah this will become clearer as we proceed ahead with explaining some of the qawaid that we have chosen for today's discussion. So this is what it does. Modern fiqh, which is also known as fiqh al-nawazil, the things that are coming now, which were not there in the past. So we put them through this funnel of qawaid al-fiqh, and from there we can drive the rulings. What are the rulings? We already discussed yesterday. A thing could be wajib to eat, for example, or it could be mandub or mustahab, what is liked. And if you eat it, it's better to eat it. And if you don't, it is okay. For example, dates and water at the time of opening the fast or breaking the fast at the time of iftar. So that is what is mustahab. Mustahab to eat that. But if you don't, there's no sin in that. So those are the type of things in which if you do them there is reward, but if you don't there is no sin. And then mubah, you could eat anything at that time, or there are many mubah things, there are many things that you can eat. One might question that there's a particular type of fruit, can we eat or not? So you can eat whatever you like as long as it does not meet the criteria of the haram that we will discuss tomorrow, the criteria of that being haram. There are certain aspects that make a thing as haram. If it is not haram, through this logic gates we ascertain, then it could be among one of those categories. Makruh is something which is disliked, but if you eat that, there is no sin upon you. And haram is what is prohibited to eat. So these are the rulings that we draw out of what is coming to us from these four sources. If you remember, we discussed about these four sources plus a fifth one also, which was animal, plants. These four sources we studied: animals, plants, minerals, and synthetic. This must know one as well. So the things that we eat would be one of these four. So they come and we assess them through these logic gates, legal maxims, and then from there we drive the rulings. I hope it is clear. If it is not, you can refer back to the lesson, yesterday's lesson, and then listen to this aspect that we are just discussing now again: input, processing, outputs. So this is our core focus for today. So in this lesson, we will seek answer to these six questions. Question number one is, what is the default ruling? So there are so many things around us. So Sharia would not give us a ruling for each and everything, that this type of plant, this is the ruling, this type of flower, this is the ruling. There are countless species. There are so many species around. So it is impractical for Sharia to give rulings for everything. What Sharia does is that it says that there is a general ruling, the default case, the normal situation, and then there are exceptions to that. And that way, through these combinations, base ruling, and then the exceptions, everything in the world is covered. And the broad spectrum is of what is allowed for us, what is mubah, what has got the ruling of ibaha, what is the ruling of approved. So vast majority of the things in the world are in this category. So we will see some of the principles in that regard. Then we will see what are the exceptions to this generic rule. We'll then see if there's doubt about something, how do we do? And today we will just be discussing some principles. There is a full lecture on this element of mashbuh, or the element of shak. There's a full lesson on that one. So today we'll just discuss some base qawaid. Then we will discuss if there is any harm in something, how do we tackle with that? And again, there is a full lesson on the topic of harm. And then again, some principles regarding mashakka or hardship, and also how do scholars take out the rulings. So as I mentioned, there are some more details lectures on those things, but today we will discuss some of the qawaid, some of the principles that we would apply when we go to those lessons, inshallah. So let's begin with the first one, which is about ma huwa al-asl. What is the basis? What is the basic ruling, default ruling? So let's inshallah dive into this one. And the base ruling is what you see at the center of your screen. And al-aslu fi jami al-ashya in nafi'a. The basic, the ground ruling, default ruling for all the beneficial things is al-hil, that they are halal. All the beneficial things in the world are halal for us, whether it be honey, whether it be some kind of native vegetation in Australia, or it might be some sort of a plant that is being used by people for cure and so on. And if it does not have any harmful things, if it is nafi'ah, then it is allowed. Similarly, for all material things, the base ruling is tahara. Unless it is proven as najis, it would be considered as pure. You can touch it. If you see a particular type of animal while you are doing camping and so on, is it najis? The answer is that if it is not declared by Sharia as najis, then this base ruling applies, that it is okay to touch it. It is considered to have the tahara. It is considered to be tahir. So that's the base ruling, and exceptions would go out of them. Similarly, in terms of foods, the general permissibility is they're halal unless they are proven haram because of any particular illa or any particular reason. And again, there would be a lesson, full lesson on what are the causes that cause exception, something to become haram. Okay. Similarly, all the types of mat'amat, foods, wal mashrubat, wal malbusat, and drinks and dresses, they are also in the ruling of halal. So that is the base ruling. Now let's look at the animal world. Again, the base ruling is that all the animals are halal except those which have been prohibited for us. All the animals are halal except those that have been prohibited for us. And there would be a full lesson on this one, that what are the prohibited animals. So inshallah, we will study about them in detail, what has come in the Quran, what has come in the Sunnah. We will inshallah look at all those things in detail. Default ruling, if you see, for example, a plant that was never mentioned in the Quran and Hadith, and there is no particular reason for this to be considered as haram, then it is considered as halal. So this is what we will see inshallah. So base ruling, a new animal never seen before and doesn't have any of the attributes of this being haram, that new animal would be halal for you. Similarly, there is a very famous narration which says that the dead of the sea is also permitted for us. So, example, you can pick the fish, you don't need to slaughter it, then it is halal for you. Now, what about the other things that come from the sea? So, other schools of thought allow that, except the Hanafi school, in which there have been some consideration with regards to them, but they all of them allow fish to be halal. And there's detail about the fish that dies and comes onto the surface. In Hanafi fiqh, it's not allowed, while there are some other scholars and some other schools of fiqh allow that. There have been certain narrations to this effect as well regarding some of the companions eating it and so on. So we'll discuss more about it later on. But the principle is that the uh, the sea animals in general, they are allowed, they are halal for us, and same is the case with the land animals. Sea animals, no exception except the harmful ones and those which share between land and sea. But with regards to these ones, certain animals have been named. For example, domestic donkeys, dogs, and also pigs, and some others. So we will discuss about them. And Prophet ﷺ also specified some categories of animals that go out as an exception. Similarly, if in the animals, the base ruling of tahara is applicable. They're considered as pure, except the dog and also the pig. With regards to dog, also there are difference. There's a difference of opinion. So. Touching a dog might be okay. Its saliva is what is problematic. Dog is also used for hunting, which we will discuss inshallah. There's a full chapter on hunting as well, inshallah, and we'll discuss more about it over there. Also about the atima, the food of Ahlul Kitab, is that it's allowed as well, unless there's a reason which makes us think that it is not. Uh, Second aspect that we want to discuss today, today is what are the exceptions. Okay, so one of the exception is harm. Al aslu fil mudarri at tahrim, that for all the harmful thing, the base ruling is haram, that they are haram. Okay, so this is what we have to keep in mind. Whatever is harmful, it is considered as haram. That's the base ruling. Okay, that ruling might change on certain circumstances, which we will touch upon today, inshallah. Now, the principle with regards to the meats is different. Okay, so al aslu fil hayawani al hil. The base ruling with regards to the animals is that they are halal unless the ones that have been prohibited. Wal aslu fil luhumi al tahrim. However, the base ruling for the meats is that it is not halal unless it is proven to be halal. So animals, you see a new animal, you don't know anything about its prohibition. The Quran Sunnah, it's allowed. But you see meat, you cannot just pick and eat it. The base ruling for that is that you cannot eat it unless it's proven it's halal. So this is a very important distinction. Secondly, with regards to the dhabh or the slaughtering process, prohibition is the base condition. حتى نتيقن سبب الحل, till except the yaqeen is established with regards to how it became halal. So all the conditions of halal are met, then it would be considered as halal. Similarly, if there's an uncertainty, then the prohibition is better in this case. There was, for example, an animal that was hunted by a trained or as well as an untrained dog. Now, you're not sure which one exactly picked and killed that animal. So, in that case, the doubt would be preferred in this particular case. Similarly, you hit a bird with your arrow, the bird fell in water. Now you don't know whether the bird died because of the arrow or because of choking after falling into the sea. So, what would be the ruling in that regard? So, the doubt in the case of meat would prevail because you don't know if the conditions of its proper hunting were acquired or not. Also, when you are muhrim and you are in the state of ihram, then you cannot hunt the animals. It's not allowed. So if meat, the halal meat, halal chicken, and so on is brought, but it was hunted by someone who was in ihram, then this is not halal. Now, some other boundaries as well. So one of the things is that inna kulla muskirin haramun. Everything that intoxicates is haram. So this is the base ruling. So it's not only related to the khamr or the alcoholic drinks. Anything that intoxicates is haram. Okay. Similarly, what intoxicates in large amount, drinking small amount of it is also not permissible. So if you think that if you take 4 glasses of wine, you would be intoxicated, 1 glass or a few sips of it would also be haram. Similarly, in kullama nuhiya an katlihi, whatever is we have been prohibited from killing it, fala yajuzu akluhu. So its eating is also not permissible. So that's one of the principles of the harim, that whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger have prohibited us to kill, then you cannot eat it. You cannot. It's not halal. Similarly, if halal and haram are mixed in something in large quantities or um, in reasonable quantities, then haram would be the ruling. If you put some drops of wine in your food, then the food would take the ruling of haram. Not that majority of it is halal, so it becomes halal. So that would take the ruling. So intended addition of haram is prohibited. So we will discuss about unintentional ones, which is called contamination. Contamination is one thing, but the other thing is adulteration, as we discussed yesterday or the day before in our definitions. So adulteration is prohibited. Contamination, there is some provision in that with regards to the concept of istihlak, which we'll have a full lesson on, inshallah. Similarly, what is forbidden to use, it's forbidden to possess. So we have done covered 2 aspects. Now, third aspect is about shak, how to deal with shak. So one of the things is that certainty is not removed by doubt. So if you were certain that something was halal, there's a certificate on that, or you saw it being done, and about this being impure, you have only got shak, no yaqeen, no certainty, then the certainty is not removed by that doubt that you have. So what is hidden, we do not question. So Islam does not encourage us to be always acting like a detective and trying to decipher things and looking at everything with the eye of shak or the eye of doubt. Umar Razitala An was once making wudu in a pond, and one of his companions started asking the people about whether that was clean or not, and he said that if you do not see that, there is no element of doubt, so do not question these things and make use of the water. So we do not get too much worried about what we do not see, and we have to therefore reject the waswasa, the paranoia. So overly being obsessed by shak and doubt all the time without any valid reason. So we'll discuss more about it in a lesson that's fully dedicated to this concept of mashbuh. So what we need to do, we have to trust the apparent evidence. Aisha Radhiyallahu anha, once she said that we sometimes receive food from people about whom we don't know whether they have taken the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on that or not. So the Prophet ﷺ advised her, the mafhum of his wording is that you say Bismillah on it and eat. So that meat was coming from Muslims or people who had recently embraced Islam. So there is no reason to doubt that they would not follow the guidelines and so on. So if you unless you see that they haven't followed it, you would establish that if it's coming from a Muslim, then we trust them. Similarly, probability acts as certainty. If there's a very, very high probability, then you would equate it closer to certainty. It's not about waswasa. If there's very high probability, you would consider it similar as certainty. All right. So these are some additional explanations with regards to that. This is the base principles. Al yaqeenu la yazulu bishak. The yaqeen, the certainty is not overcome, is not removed by the doubt. And ma ghaba anna la nas'alu anhu. Whatever is not in front of us, we do not unnecessarily question that. So these are the base principles about the doubt. Now we move on to the next aspects, which is about how to deal with harm if a food is harmful, how do we deal with that? So one of the things is that al-dararu yudal, that the harm has to be removed. So this is one of the things. If something is harmful, then you have to avoid that. This is one of the base rulings. And this one we have already studied, al-aslu fil mudari at-tahrim, that the base ruling with the harmful things is that they are haram. This is another very important ruling. If you got some benefit, for example, this drink, you are feeling cold and it might provide you temporary warmth, that is a benefit. But there are many harms of it, for example, intoxication and so on. So dar al mafasidi muqaddamun ala jalb al masalih. That removing the mafasid, removing the evils, is is precedent or takes precedent over acquisition of the masalih, of the benefits. Similarly, ad-dararu la yuzal bid-darar. You cannot remove harm by another harmful thing. For example, there's if someone is dying, they can steal from people so that they can just save their life. But this is at the time of darura, at the time of extreme need, when one is about to die, not in normal situations. And then they can steal, but and then that has to be paid. But if they steal from a person who would also die if their food is stolen, then you cannot have it. الضرر لا يزال بالضرر. So you cannot just save yourself and let someone else die. So this is not right. So this principle tells us that. The next aspect is about how do we handle hardship. So we discussed about harm. Now let's discuss about hardship. So with regards to hardship, these are the principles in standard. There's a standard permissibility. You can use things for benefit, for zina, for comfort, and so on. But when you have got haja, when you have got severe hardship, not a life-threatening one, but a severe hardship, even then Sharia gives you uh, concessions when the hardship comes. Hardship begets ease. When you're fasting and traveling, then you can skip the fasting. When you are traveling, your prayer becomes short. You can shorten your prayer. Al-mashakkatu tajlibu taysir. Al-mashakkatu tajlibu taysir. That the hardship begets ease. Now, what about the life-threatening situation? In this situation, what is haram becomes halal as well. So necessities permit the prohibited. Tabihul mahzurat. So this extreme necessity as zarurat, they make mubah what is mahzur, what is prohibited. And someone is dying, they come across a dead animal or something, then that becomes permissible for them to eat. Like the principle, however, is that they can only take whatever is minimum requirement. They should not like eat to their full and so on. Whatever is necessary to remain alive, then that is fine. If one is choking and there's no other liquid available apart from alcohol, then this is permitted for them, just enough to avoid choking and not dying. The last one is how do scholars drive the rulings. Now, in this one, we will discuss some of the kawaid. Well, one of them is al-umuru bi maqasidiha, that the matters are by their objectives. Okay, so example is one of the things that is prohibited in Sharia is mutilation of the dead bodies, cutting them and disrespecting them and so on. But if it is to save the life, if the maqsad is different, if the maqsad is saving life, then it is permitted. Okay. Similarly, there is a principle that means carry the same rules as their ends. If slaughtering in a manner in which animal receives least pain, if that is something which is recommended by the Sharia, then the things that you do to attain that are also considered as mustahab or light. For example, if you're sharpening your knife so that the animal receives less pain, then this sharp process of sharpening would also earn you reward so that the animal welfare is ensured. Next one is hamlul mutlaqi alal muqayyad. This shows that the mutlaq, the broad ruling, has to be interpreted with regards to the specific ruling. Whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created on earth, you can eat from that or you can drink from that. But there are certain things that have been prohibited. So that mutlaq, broader permissibility, would be checked in accordance with muqayyad, what is restricted. Certain animals and so on, they're prohibited, so we'll exclude them. Next one is very important. Al-hukmu yaduru ma'illatihi wujudan wa adaman. That the ruling it revolves around with illah. Ruling is because of an illah. Hukum is because of an illah. And it changes because of its presence or absence. Example is, for example, these vaccinations. So they induce certain types of substances in our body which might be harmful by themselves, but the illah is the objective of here is not to cause harm. The objective is to remove harm and make your body's immune system work to create the defenses for those sort of things. So this ruling would be different. It would be for protection. Its illa is changed. The illa is no more harm. Illa is prevention of harm. So this is allowed. Similarly, the last one that we're going to study is al-adatu muhakkamatun, that the customs of the people are used as a basis of ruling. For example, in the older times, the contract has to be signed in a proper way, or hand had to be shaken in certain way. Nowadays, SMS, emails, and so on take those rulings as well. So this is another principle. So today, in a nutshell, we try to discuss some of the qawaid that would inshallah help us in understanding the rulings that would come in the future lessons. And this concludes week one. Week one was foundational week in which we discuss some of the foundational aspects. And from next week, inshallah, we will study some more topics. We'll start with the asbab al-tahrim, the reasons for prohibitions, and so on. And we will start to go into more application side of things. This week was more foundational concepts. From next week onwards, we will have more application based topics inshallah. So with this we conclude. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين والمسلمات سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi, brothers and sisters. I forgot to explain one thing in this lesson, and that was from where do we get the qawaid al-fiqh. So some of these are statements of the Prophet ﷺ, some of them are statements from the companions, and some of these are understandings by the ulama, by the fuqaha, based on comprehensive analysis of all the rulings in Islam. After studying them, they identified that this particular principle is at work in Islamic rulings, and from there they drove that principle. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.